StrayAllDay.com.
You're now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. That is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques all underneath the umbrella of one unified philosophy that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is, we are getting into part 2 of our 2-part mini-series here of why Dre Baldwin is not corporate. And that title is very self-explanatory. But before we even get into anything, let me remind you of 2 things. First of all, my daily motivation and Monday motivation messages guaranteed to have you focused, sharp, and on point to start your day or your week, respectively. All you got to do is text me to be part of my community. It is free to join. My number is 305-384-6894. Secondly, Work on Your Game University. That is the place where you take your first step into the work on your game world. And this is for the ambitious. This is for the people with big goals. This is for the people who are serious about achieving things and achieving them now. I will help you do that through our 4-part framework based around mindset, strategy, systems, and accountability when it comes to your personal and your professional development. If you like what you hear here on this show, then you will love what you get inside of Work on Your Game University. This is a great tester for whether Work on Your Game University is for you or not. Now, this, of course, is me not knowing anything about you personally. When I know you personally, I can answer your questions even more specifically and give you even more specific direction. You get game from this, and I don't even know you. Imagine what you're going to get when I actually know who you are, and I'm helping you specifically with what you need. Go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. Now, with that out the way, we're going to pick up on part 2 of our mini-series here. Let me take a sip of water. Of why Dre Baldwin is not corporate. Now, again, if you heard yesterday's episode, then you already got the intro to what this is about. So if you didn't hear the intro, then go and check it. I don't need to give an intro here. Let's just pick up on point number 4 where we left off. Topic once again today is why Dre Baldwin is not corporate. Number 4, I lack the ability to go along to get along. I do not have this ability. Now, this is one I mentioned in the previous episode, first installment of this series, that I am a very good rule follower and I'm good at following directions and being consistent and disciplined and dependable, which make me a great employee. However, now that's a skill I have that I choose to not use, at least when it comes to being an employee. Now, this ability, though, going along to get along, I have never had this ability. This is one I've never had. I am completely devoid of this ability. I am not this guy. I cannot go along to get along. I don't like seeing people go along to get along. I will call people out when I see them going along to get along. I do not have this genetic code. I talked about this in episode number 2020, why people go along to get along, and I laid that episode out in a, I guess you can say it, a critical way. It wouldn't be wrong to call it a critical way. And going along to get along, what does it mean? It means holding your tongue, letting things slide, and not pressing on anything that is bothering you or that you disagree with. And you do this all for the purpose of maintaining relationships or maintaining positive energy or staying in the good graces of whomever may be in charge in a specific place, or you just want to keep everything copacetic between everybody who is around you. I personally reject this concept. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. This does exist, and a lot of people do it. That's the reason why I did a whole episode on it, episode 2020. Why people go along to get along, because it's a normal thing that most people do. What makes me different from most people in one way is that I don't do this. I do not like going along to get along. I don't mind if I got to disagree with the whole room. I do not go along to get along. I'm not this guy. And again, this doesn't make me better than anybody else. This is just different. And everything I'm pointing out here is just part of my wiring as a person. And all of this adds up to explain why I am who I am and why I do certain things and why I don't do other things. So going along to get along, again, means not saying things or going along with things to appease whoever has the power, which may not be you. And again, this is one of the reasons why I don't like having a boss. And also to just maintain positive relations between everybody who's around. Maybe you don't even have to do this at work. You can do this at home. You can do it in your community. You can do it in a relationship. Just going along to get along, just to make sure that nobody feels uncomfortable. This is also related to the concept of safe spaces, which is another concept that's another social thing that I have trashed over the years. So I talked about this in episode 2764 and 2765. No such thing as a safe space. And how to create a real life safe space was a lot different than maybe what you think it is. See, I couldn't work in corporate talking about these things, let alone not agreeing with them, not going along with them. So many people go along to get along. This is another form of going along to get along, is known as people pleasing. I am not a people pleaser. I'm a person who is much more likely to tell you something that makes you uncomfortable, but is true, than to tell you something that's a lie just to make you happy. I'm just not that person. And it's the reason why I'm in the line of work that I'm in, because I have license to tell people the truth to their faces. And even if I wasn't in this line of work, I would still tell you the truth to your fucking face, because that's just how I am as a person. I was doing this even before I was in this line of work. So this concept, again, I don't do it at all. It's not in my wiring. I don't have a problem telling a person, even if I like them, something that I believe may disturb you, upset you, or lead to an altercation between me and you. Altercation, hopefully just verbal. Like, I don't mind telling somebody something that might upset them or disturb them or knock them out of what they thought was a mental safe space, if you get what I'm saying. And again, this is just the type of person I am. And if I was working in corporate, I would have, it was only two ways I could do this working in corporate. Either A, I would have to be the boss so that nobody who was pissed off by me could fire me. But at the same time, in the corporate environment, you got politics going on. So even if I piss off someone who is subordinate to me, they can still go around me somehow, some way, and get me in a bad situation just because corporate is designed in that way. I'm not the boss, I'm a boss. Being a CEO is not the boss. Being a CEO means you are a boss. You can still be fired. You can be fired, you're not the boss. Just to make sure everybody understands that. And I would either, if I was working in corporate, I would either have to smother this part of my personality where I tell people just truths to their faces, or I would get fired. There's only two things that can happen. Nothing else can happen. And for the most part, I would never get hired in the first place. So I wouldn't even have to worry about that, because I would never get the job. I'm not the type of person to go along to get along simply because of what I already told you in previous points, that I don't like having bosses. So there's nobody I need to go along to get along with. There's no human on this planet who I need to go along to get along with them. If that means me and another person end up not being cool or not being friends, or we're not going to deal with each other, I'm completely fine with that. All right, I just don't do this. All right, there's no one on this planet. As I said, I made this as a decision. This is not some random talent that I have. I made it as a decision a long time ago. There'll be not a single human on this planet who can tell me what to do. Period. And nobody who I need to answer to. And I don't need to do anything to appease any person who I do not wish to appease. Now, if I want to appease you, I will do things. But if I don't want to, I'm not going to. And again, this is a position that I've chosen to put myself in. I'm emphasizing this, folks, not to impress you in looking at me, but to impress upon you that if you want to be in the same position, you have to make the choices the same way I did, and you have to be willing to pay the price to get it. You have to be willing to pay the price. The price that I'm paying is the risk that I take as being an entrepreneur. Because you work in a corporation, you know the check's coming every 2 weeks. You're an entrepreneur, there's no guarantee of a check in 2 months, let alone 2 weeks. Everybody got it? Point number 5. Today's topic, once again, is why Dre Baldwin is not corporate. Number 5, I cannot deal with people being fake, nor can I pretend to be fake. I just don't have this. There's another ability I lack. I don't have the ability to be fake. I can't pretend to like somebody who I don't like. I can't pretend to be cool with somebody who I actively dislike. I cannot hold my tongue for a long enough time when I see some nonsense or some bullshit happening and nobody else is saying anything because everybody else is going along to get along. This is what you have to do when you work in highly politicized spaces. Any of you who works in academia, the government, or corporate, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You have to deal with it. You have to deal with this all the time, to the point that if you do it often enough, it becomes a habit to where you don't even realize that you're doing it. And I completely get it. And I'm not knocking any of you for doing this. Listen, we have members of Work on Your Game University who work in corporate. I'm not knocking you for working in corporate. I'm just saying I couldn't do it. I'm not mad at you for doing it. I couldn't do it. All right. And we need people everywhere. We need maintenance men. We need corporate. We need athletes. We need landscapers. We need people who fix cars. We need podcasters. We need book authors. We need everybody to do all different types of things. We need coders. We need people who make food. We need different people in different spaces. Everybody does not need to be the same. So I want to make sure that you all understand this. Nothing I'm saying here is a condemnation of you if it's different from how I am. All right, I don't need you to be exactly like me, because then we wouldn't need, one of us don't need to be here. All right, if we're both doing the same thing, what's the need for me or the need for you? One of us got to go. So we need to be different. Okay, I'm just telling you how I am and why I'm the way that I am. And this should all help you all make sense of what you hear on a daily basis here once you understand these things even more, as I explain more of myself, if you didn't already understand it. So the biggest thing that I see and hear from people who I know who are just experienced as me professionally, but they got their experience working in a corporate space. So they may be similar in age to me and they've been in the workforce as long as me, but they just got their experience in corporate, whereas I got mine being an athlete and being on the internet and being an entrepreneur. They got the same amount of experience, just in a different way. This is the one that I hear the most. This is the one I hear about the most. They don't necessarily say being fake. but they allude to it. Like, okay, I can't say something about that, or this is some nonsense, but I got to go along with it because I work here, or I don't like that they're doing that, and other context clues that I get from people. I'm very observant. I pick things up from people, even when they don't say anything. There's certain things I pick up from individuals, people who are friends of mine, people who are like, and I know that this being fake, this politics thing, you have to deal with when you work in any place where there's a lot of people. Period. Any place where there's a whole lot of people engaging and interacting with each other, and there is a power dynamic, and there's a totem pole of power, you're going to get politics. That's what politics is. Politics is just people doing things to serve their own self-interest, to protect their self-interest, to defend their self-interest, or to advance their self-interest. That's what politics means. I'm not talking about politics like the government, capital P. I'm talking politics just involving everyday people, lowercase p. All right, this happens. This is just normal life. Okay, so don't think that this is something you can escape. There's nowhere you can go where you can escape this. Even in the entrepreneurial world, where as it's a little bit different because you don't really have to deal with people if you don't want to. But as an entrepreneur, I associate with a whole lot of different types of people. And there's some entrepreneurs out there who I have associated with, but then they heard me say something, they don't want to associate with me anymore. I'm completely fine with that. And there are entrepreneurs out there who hear me say certain things and they come closer to me because they like the fact that I said it. I'm fine with that too. But in the entrepreneurial world, I have to associate with other people. I go to events, I join masterminds, I'm in programs, I get coached, and you got to deal with these other people. The difference in the entrepreneurial world is you can kind of tell people whatever the hell you want to tell them, and it doesn't matter if they like it or not, because again, ain't nothing anybody can do to you as an entrepreneur, generally speaking. Whereas in the corporate world, there's a lot they can do to you. So it's a little bit different dynamic. And any of you who works in corporate, you understand everything I'm saying. You've been in corporate 10 plus years. You probably thought more than once about, maybe I need to get out of here. And listen, I've talked to enough people who have worked in corporate who have either exited or are still there, but they thought about it to know that that's true. I'm not making that up. I know that's true. So anyway, many people I know who work in corporate understand that they have to stay quiet when they might have something to say, or they have to pretend to like people they don't like, and they got to play the political game so that they can survive in the space in which they're in. Now, let's be clear. I just told you this. As an entrepreneur, I do play the political game as well, but the game is a little bit different. Actually, not a little bit, a lot different than in the corporate world. See, in the corporate space, somebody can have authority over you even when they have no substance. How many of you do or have ever worked in corporate and there was someone who had a position higher than your position and you looked at them and said, this person's a fucking idiot. They have no substance. They did not earn their position, but they have a position higher than yours or equal to yours. And you're like, how the hell are they in this space and I'm in this space? I did way more work than them. I've been working longer than them. I'm a better performer than them. Everything on paper, I'm better than them, but somehow they at the same position or higher position than me. How the hell is that possible? See, you can't say that out loud and keep your job. See, in the entrepreneurial world, I can say that out loud. I can say this person ain't shit. I listen to their show. They ain't shit. I read their book. They're garbage. I've seen what they talk about on their live streams or on their YouTube videos. They're garbage. This person's trash. I can say it out loud. And if they don't like it, so what? What are they going to do about it? Nothing anybody can do to me. But see, in corporate, if I said that about one of my coworkers, I can get fired. And depending on who I am and depending on who they are, i.e., let's say I'm some straight white guy and they're a homosexual black female, I can get fired. I can get a lawsuit. I get all kinds of things happen to me just because of who I am versus who they are and what I said. Is this true or not true? Again, I'm not asking if you agree. I'm asking, is it true or not true? In the corporate world, you have to deal with all this stuff. In the entrepreneurial world, you don't have to deal with this. Again, there are still politics. As the saying goes, anytime you put 3 people in a room, you get politics. But see, I can exit any political space I don't want to be in as an entrepreneur because I have the autonomy to do so. And that's one of the benefits of being an entrepreneur. The trade-off of that benefit is that anything that comes in has to be brought in by me. And if I don't bring it in, it ain't coming in. That's the trade-off. Whereas in corporate, you know the check's coming. So don't take anything I'm saying here today to think that there's some utopian location you can go to outside of the spaces you're already in. The grass always looks greener on the other side of the fence. Now, just make sure you understand why the grass looks greener. All right, so don't go making any rash moves. All right, based on anything you hear me saying here today. So in the entrepreneurial world, no one really has authority over anyone else. So if you're not feeling another person, another organization, or a situation, you don't have to pretend that you like them. Right? That doesn't mean that someone can't be at a higher level. So let's say if you're making $1 million a year as an entrepreneur, someone else is making $50 million a year as an entrepreneur. They are at a higher level than you, but that doesn't mean they have authority over you. You don't have to listen to them if you don't want to. Now, if they have some advice on how to make more money, you might want to take some of that, but it doesn't mean you have to. If you don't want to deal with them, you don't have to. There's nothing forcing you to do it. Whereas in the corporate world, you don't really have a say. Whoever's above you in that org chart is above you, and you probably don't control the org chart. The only thing you control, you can drop off it by quitting. But other than that, you don't really have control. In the corporate space, you have to go along with people that you may not even like. Again, you don't even respect. You don't even think they earn their position, and you got to deal with it anyway. And if you don't, you won't be working there. That's the deal. And again, these are things that I don't like about that space, and this is the reason why I'm not in it. Point number 6. Today's topic, once again, is why Dre Baldwin is not corporate. Number 6, I know very well how to climb ladders. I'm very good at climbing ladders when I want to climb them. I just don't want to. So I want you to notice, this is point number 6. I'm good at climbing ladders. I just don't want to. I want you to notice several times in this series, this mini series here, I've told you about things that I can do. I just don't want to do them. And one of the benefits of being an entrepreneur is that you can design things exactly how you want them to be. Now, let me be clear. The way things are right now for me and my company, Work on Your Game Incorporated, is not exactly as I want it to be, but I'm headed in that direction of getting things how I want them to be. And sometimes you just got to knock them down one at a time, like bowling pins. Sometimes you can knock down 10 at a time. Sometimes you got to knock them down one at a time. But I am getting things exactly how I want them to be. When you work in any space in which you are not the boss, not a boss, but the boss, you probably aren't going to have things exactly how you want them. If they were exactly how you want them, you'd be the boss. So, again, there are things that I could do to make me a very good employee. Any of you who is an employer, I would be a very good employee for you. As long as you can teach me how to do the job, I would be one of your best employees. I promise you that. But I'll never be your employee because I'm never going to have a boss again for the rest of my life. All right, so I have the ability to do these things. I have the skill of climbing a ladder. What does climbing a ladder mean? In case any of you doesn't even know what that means. I think I did an episode on this. Actually, I know I did an episode on it. It was episode number 2672. I told entrepreneurs to stop climbing ladders. What does climbing a ladder mean? Climbing a ladder means that someone tells you, all right, if you want to get to this level up here, level 10, here you are at level 1, you got to go to level 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 before you get to level 10. You have to follow this process that we are going to lay out for you, and we control the process. And as long as you follow the process that we give you, then you can get to the top, and you can get a trophy or a plaque or a medal or a pat on the back or a handshake once you get up here climbing this ladder. That is like corporate America is literally, not literally, but there's a ladder that you climb. You start at the bottom, then you move up, 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 and hopefully maybe one day you become the CEO. That's climbing the ladder. I decided that I didn't want to climb the ladder. I decided that I want to go straight to being a boss. And when you become an entrepreneur, you go straight from being a nobody to being a boss. The boss, not a boss, the boss. I decided that's what I wanted to do. I took the elevator. Now, I could have, if I wanted to, go on to school, which I did, get better grades, which I didn't do, get my degree. I got a degree, but my GPA, when I graduated, I think I had a 2.6 GPA. So as the saying goes, C's get degrees. All right, that's how I got my degree. C's get degrees. I could have went into the corporate space. Let's say if I had better grades. Now, I could have gotten to corporate maybe with the performance that I had, but I wouldn't have got a great corporate job based on my background. My pedigree wasn't that great. And I could have carved out a nice and neat career just doing that. Go to school, get better grades, be a better student, get a good job, live happily ever after. I could have did that. I know how to do it. I had the capability of doing it, and I have the skill set to do it. I have the knowledge and intelligence to do it. I know how to follow rules. I'm a former athlete. Athletes, and the reason companies like hiring athletes is because we respect authority, we are used to being disciplined, and we are used to performing, and we're used to competing. All right, companies love hiring athletes because of those reasons. We had those baked into our psyches. I would be a very good employee for anybody who hired me. Had I walked into the corporate world, I would be doing really well right now as a corporate employee. The challenge is I didn't want to climb the ladders once I found out that there was a way to avoid the ladder. When I found out there's a way to go around and circumvent the ladder, I decided I wasn't going to climb it. And again, took the elevator. Or just find a way that I can get to the top floor, take a helicopter or something to get to the top of the building without having to climb all the way up. And that's why I'm not in corporate to this day. Had I not gotten that information, let me be clear, maybe I would be a completely different person than I am today. And by the way, I lied to you. I told you it's a 2-part series. It's actually a 3-part series. We got one more part after this. So tomorrow we're going to go into part 3 of this series. I forgot that I had 3 parts. I thought I only had 2. But if y'all don't mind me over-delivering and giving you some more reasons, then I'm going to give you those tomorrow. Let me recap today's topic, which is, again, we're on part 2 of a 3-part series, why I'm not corporate. Number 4. I lack the ability to go along to get along. This is one that I've never had. This is not something I just suppress. This is something that I simply do not have. I don't like going along to get along with bullshit. Number 5, I cannot deal with people being fake, nor can I pretend to be something that I'm not. This is another one that I don't like doing. I could do it for a certain period of time, but it would be excruciating to me and there would be a lot of friction internally for me. I don't really like doing that either. Number 6, I know how to climb ladders, just don't want to. Now, this one I'm very good at. I can climb ladders very well. I could climb the corporate ladder if I wanted to, and I would climb the ladder. I would do pretty well. But I don't want to. I just decided that I didn't want to do it. And one of the things about being an entrepreneur, folks, is about having things how you want them, not just because you, quote unquote, need them. Tomorrow, we're going to part 3 of the series. Again, make sure you go to workonyourgameuniversity.com if you want to learn more, when you want to learn more about how to work with me directly on getting your personal and professional life maximized, squeezing all the juice out of your orange, being the best version of yourself on the business side and on the life side. Workonyourgameuniversity.com. Tomorrow, part 3 of the series. Work on your game. Dre, all